A Memphis judge today halted the foreclosure sale of Graceland, the iconic home of Elvis Presley. Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and Lisa Marie's daughter, sued, saying there was no loan and that those documents are forged.
In 2024, Elvis Presley's granddaughter, Riley Keough, faced her greatest challenge yet. A fraudster attempted to steal Graceland itself, threatening to auction off the $500 million estate to the highest bidder. But this shocking crime would only be the beginning of a year that would finally unlock the deepest secrets of the world's most famous home. For over 40 years, the upstairs of Graceland has been sealed. No photos, no tours, no exceptions. But now, through Riley's mother's posthumous memoir and Riley's own revelations, we're hearing intimate details that change everything we thought we knew about Elvis Presley's final years. What did Riley discover in those locked rooms that Lisa Marie Presley recorded on secret tapes before her death? Why did someone try to steal Graceland through an elaborate fraud scheme? And what new Elvis footage has emerged that fans have never seen before? Let's uncover the truth behind America's most mysterious mansion. Graceland isn't just a house anymore. It's a $500 million empire that generates over $10 million annually, making it one of the most valuable private estates in American history. When Elvis bought the property in 1957 for $102,500, he couldn't have imagined that his granddaughter would one day inherit what amounts to a cultural and financial kingdom. The transformation has been staggering. At the time of Elvis's death in 1977, Graceland was valued at approximately $5 million. Today, it's worth 100 times that amount. The estate's annual revenue exceeds $10 million, driven by tours, merchandise, licensing deals, and special events. It's become a pilgrimage site for millions of fans worldwide, generating economic impact that extends far beyond the mansion's walls. Riley Keough officially became the sole owner of Graceland in August 2023, after a months-long legal battle with her grandmother, Priscilla Presley. The dispute centered on the authenticity of Lisa Marie Presley's 2016 will amendment, but it was ultimately resolved when a Los Angeles judge approved Riley as the sole trustee. The settlement also ensured that Priscilla would be allowed to be buried on the property when the time comes, cementing the estate's role as both a public museum and a private family sanctuary. The numbers surrounding Graceland's success are staggering. The estate welcomes over 500,000 visitors annually, making it the second most visited home in America after the White House. Since opening to the public in 1982, over 20 million people have walked through those doors, each hoping to feel closer to the king of rock and roll. But even with all this public access, the most important part of the house remains completely off-limits: the upstairs, where Elvis lived, where he died, and where time stopped on August 16, 1977. In May 2024, Riley Keough received a devastating phone call that would test her resolve as the guardian of her family's legacy. Someone was claiming that Lisa Marie Presley had borrowed $3.8 million using Graceland as collateral, and now they were demanding $2.85 million, or they would foreclose on the property and auction it off to the highest bidder. The caller was Lisa Janine Findley, a Missouri woman who had spent months orchestrating an elaborate fraud scheme involving fake documents, forged signatures, and a phony lending company called Naucini Investments and Private Lending. She had filed court papers claiming Lisa Marie had defaulted on a loan and was preparing to put Elvis's home up for public auction. Findley's scheme was sophisticated and chilling. She had created fake loan documents dating back to 2018, complete with forged signatures and notarized paperwork. The documents claimed that Lisa Marie had used Graceland as collateral for a $3.8 million loan that had never been repaid. To make the fraud appear legitimate, Findley had even created a fake identity for herself as a representative of multiple employees within the lending company. But the scheme began to unravel when investigators discovered crucial flaws in the documentation. The notary, whose name appeared on the documents, Kimberly Philbrick, came forward to state that she had never met Lisa Marie Presley and had never notarized any documents for her. The addresses listed for the lending company turned out to be post office boxes in Florida and Missouri, not legitimate business locations. Riley immediately knew it was fraudulent. Lisa Marie had never borrowed money from this company, and the documents were clearly fake. But the legal threat was real enough that Riley had to go to court to block the attempted sale. The case revealed just how valuable Graceland has become and how far some people will go to try to claim a piece of the Presley legacy. The attempted theft sent shockwaves through the Elvis fan community and raised serious questions about the vulnerability of cultural landmarks to sophisticated fraud schemes. It also demonstrated the lengths to which criminals will go to exploit the fame and fortune associated with the Presley name. Findlay was arrested in August 2024 and pleaded guilty to mail fraud in February 2025. She faces up to 20 years in prison for her attempt to steal America's most famous home. But this attack on Graceland would prove to be just the beginning of a year that would finally unlock the estate's deepest secrets. In October 2024, Riley Keough published something that would forever change how the world sees Elvis Presley and his family. From Here to the Great Unknown, a memoir that Lisa Marie Presley had been working on before her death, completed by Riley using her mother's secret audio recordings. The book became an immediate bestseller, debuting at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list and earning selection for Oprah's book club. But more importantly, it revealed intimate details about life in the upstairs rooms of Graceland that no one outside the family had ever heard before. Lisa Marie had recorded hours of audio tapes speaking candidly about her childhood memories with Elvis, their time together in the sealed rooms, and what she discovered there as an adult. The recordings were raw, emotional, and often difficult to listen to. Riley spent months listening to these tapes, often lying in bed with headphones on, hearing her mother's voice tell story after story about the man the world knew as the king of rock and roll, but who was simply daddy to Lisa Marie. The memoir reveals that Lisa Marie and Elvis spent countless hours together in his upstairs study, a room lined with books on numerology, Christian theology, and Eastern mysticism. This wasn't the public image of Elvis that fans knew. This was a man deeply interested in spiritual matters, constantly seeking meaning and purpose beyond his fame. Among the books were notebooks filled with Elvis's own reflections on fame, spirituality, and loneliness. Some entries, Lisa Marie recalled, read like journaled prayers, with Elvis writing about his struggles with the pressures of fame and his desire to find peace. Others were more erratic, unfinished song lyrics, stream of consciousness paragraphs, and scribbled quotes from various religious and philosophical texts. One page that particularly stuck with Lisa Marie just had the word "free" written over and over again, as if Elvis was desperately trying to convince himself that freedom was possible. The memoir also reveals Lisa Marie's own struggles with growing up in the shadow of such enormous fame. She describes feeling both protected and imprisoned by Graceland's walls, loving her father deeply while also resenting the way his celebrity status affected their family life. These revelations provide crucial context for understanding Lisa Marie's later struggles with addiction and her complicated relationship with her own fame. Through the memoir, Riley revealed the existence of a room that had never been mentioned in any official Graceland literature, what Lisa Marie called the quiet room. This small, tucked-away space at the end of the upstairs hallway was where Elvis had created his own meditation sanctuary, far from the public eye and even from most family members. With low lighting, cushions on the floor, and soft sounds from an old sound machine, this room was where Elvis would go to pray, reflect, or simply escape from the relentless pressure of fame. The room was decorated minimally, with only a few carefully chosen religious and spiritual artifacts. Lisa Marie described it as one of the most honest parts of who he was, a man constantly searching for peace in a world that wouldn't stop watching him. The existence of this room challenges many of the assumptions people have made about Elvis's final years. Rather than being purely self-destructive or lost to addiction, the quiet room suggests that Elvis was actively seeking spiritual healing and peace. It represents a side of him that few people ever saw, contemplative, searching, and deeply human. Lisa Marie's recordings describe spending time in this room with her father, sitting quietly while he read or meditated. She recalls these moments as some of her most treasured memories, times when Elvis wasn't performing or entertaining, but simply being present with his daughter in a space that offered true refuge from the outside world. The memoir also revealed physical artifacts that offer a window into Elvis's state of mind during his final years. His bed, still dressed in its original silk sheets, is flanked by nightstands that tell a story of internal struggle and spiritual seeking. One nightstand holds a Bible with extensive handwritten annotations, showing Elvis's attempts to find meaning and comfort in Scripture. The margins are filled with his thoughts, questions, and reflections on various passages. The other nightstand contains a stark contrast. Pain medication bottles, some still full, representing the physical and emotional pain that Elvis was struggling to manage. This juxtaposition of spiritual seeking and medical dependence illustrates the complexity of Elvis's final years, showing a man caught between his desire for peace and his need for relief from chronic pain. But perhaps most poignant were the unsent letters Lisa Marie found tucked beneath the bed in a shoebox labeled "Do Not Open." These letters, written in Elvis's own hand, were never intended for public consumption, but provide incredible insight into his state of mind. One was addressed to Lisa Marie herself, expressing his love for her and his hopes for her future. Another simply read, "To whoever finds this after I'm gone," and contained reflections on his life, his regrets, and his love for his family. These letters, which Riley has stated will never be made public out of respect for her grandfather's privacy, apparently reveal a man who was deeply aware of his mortality and concerned about the legacy he would leave behind. They show Elvis not as the larger-than-life figure the world knew, but as a father and human being struggling with the same fears and hopes that touch all of us. The memoir provides the most detailed account ever published of Elvis's final moments and their aftermath. Lisa Marie was 9 years old when she ran toward the bathroom where Elvis had collapsed on August 16, 1977. She describes being dragged screaming away from his body, a traumatic experience that would haunt her for the rest of her life and contribute to her lifelong struggles with grief and addiction. The bathroom remains exactly as it was on that August day in 1977. Not even the towels have been replaced. For the Presley family, this space has been sealed with the same reverence as a mausoleum, preserved not as a tourist attraction, but as a sacred space where a beloved family member spent his final moments. Lisa Marie's recordings reveal that Elvis often spent hours in this bathroom, not just for privacy, but as a refuge from the constant demands of fame. He would read there, meditate, and sometimes just sit in silence, finding in this small space a respite from the pressures that consumed the rest of his life. The bathroom paradoxically represented both tragedy and sanctuary, a place where the king of rock and roll could simply be human. The memoir also reveals that Elvis had been in significant physical pain in the months leading up to his death, struggling with various health issues that were exacerbated by his demanding schedule and lifestyle. Lisa Marie's account provides context for understanding not just how Elvis died, but how he lived during those final, difficult months. While Riley was working on preserving her mother's legacy, researchers were making groundbreaking discoveries about Elvis's early career. In 2024, previously unknown footage emerged from Elvis's 1956 homecoming concert in Tupelo, Mississippi, the first time anyone had seen Elvis perform live in the 1950s with synchronized sound. The footage shows Elvis performing 6 songs, including Heartbreak Hotel, Don't Be Cruel, and a rare performance of Long Tall Sally that had never been captured on film before. The discovery was made by Follow That Dream Records, Elvis's official collector's label, and represents one of the most significant archival finds in decades. This footage provides a window into Elvis at the height of his early fame, performing in front of 11,000 people in his hometown of Tupelo. It's Elvis in his prime, raw and electrifying, before the weight of global stardom would eventually consume him. The energy and charisma evident in the footage help explain why Elvis became such a cultural phenomenon and why his influence continues to resonate nearly 50 years after his death. The discovery has been particularly meaningful for Riley, who sees it as a gift from the past that helps preserve her grandfather's legacy for future generations. The footage has been digitally restored and is now part of the ongoing effort to preserve and catalog Elvis's complete artistic output. Today, Riley Keough faces the enormous responsibility of being the sole guardian of not just a house, but a cultural icon. At 35, she has inherited what she describes as our family home, and she's determined to preserve it in a way that honors both the public's fascination and the family's privacy. My hope is to continue what my grandmother did and then my mother did, which is simply to preserve our family home, Riley said in a recent interview. But the reality of her situation is far more complex than this simple statement suggests. She's not just preserving a house. She's managing a multi-million-dollar business empire, maintaining a cultural landmark, and protecting her family's most intimate memories. Riley's approach to this responsibility reflects both her generation's perspective and her personal values. She's working with archivists and preservation specialists to ensure that materials from Elvis's life, handwritten notes, original recordings, unreleased photographs, are properly digitized and stored using the latest technology. This isn't just about preservation, it's about ensuring that future researchers and fans will have access to these materials long after the current generation is gone. But Riley has been clear about boundaries. The upstairs will remain closed to the public, and certain personal items will never be displayed or sold. These revelations through the memoir are meant to give fans a deeper emotional connection to Elvis, not physical access to the rooms where he lived and died. Riley's approach reflects a new generation's perspective on the Presley legacy. She's not interested in exploiting her grandfather's memory for quick profit or sensationalizing his personal struggles. Instead, she's focused on educational initiatives, working with schools and universities to ensure Elvis is studied not just as a celebrity, but as a case study in fame, cultural impact, and American history. Riley's connection to Graceland goes beyond ownership. It's deeply personal and extends to the next generation. Her own daughter, born in 2022, is named Tupelo Storm in tribute to Elvis, who was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, and to her late brother Benjamin, whose middle name was Storm. This naming choice reflects how the Presley legacy continues to influence new generations of the family. The memoir also reveals how Riley's perspective on Graceland has evolved over the years. "I always had positive and beautiful memories and association with Graceland," she said. "Now, a lot of my family's buried there, so it's a place of great sadness at this point in my life." The meditation garden now holds Elvis, his parents Vernon and Gladys, Lisa Marie, and Benjamin, making it both a tourist destination and a family cemetery. This dual nature of Graceland, as both public attraction and private family space, creates unique challenges for Riley. She must balance the public's desire to connect with Elvis's legacy against her family's need for privacy and healing. It's a delicate balance that requires constant attention and careful decision-making. The birth of Tupelo Storm represents hope for the future of the Presley legacy. As the newest member of the family, she will grow up with a different relationship to Elvis's fame than previous generations. Riley has expressed hope that her daughter will be able to appreciate her great-grandfather's legacy without being burdened by it. Despite all the recent revelations, some mysteries remain unsolved. The theory that Elvis faked his death and escaped through a secret tunnel beneath Graceland continues to captivate fans. The fraud scheme of 2024 only added fuel to these theories, with some believers suggesting that the attempted theft was connected to hidden secrets about Elvis's fate. The tunnel theory has evolved over the decades, with various versions claiming different purposes and destinations. Some believe it was built as a privacy safeguard so Elvis could avoid paparazzi. Others suggest it was an emergency escape route in case he ever decided to disappear permanently. The most elaborate versions of the theory claim the tunnel stretches from the main house all the way beyond the property boundaries, possibly connecting to an unmarked exit in the wooded area behind the estate. Official Graceland blueprints that are available to the public make no mention of such a tunnel, but these documents are incomplete by design. The upstairs isn't shown either, yet we know it exists. Former staff members have given conflicting accounts over the years. Some deny the tunnel outright, while others cryptically suggest there are things not even employees are shown. The persistence of these theories speaks to the enduring power of Elvis's legend and the human need to believe that larger-than-life figures don't simply die like ordinary people. For many fans, the idea that Elvis might have found a way to escape the pressures of fame and live out his days in peace is more comforting than accepting the reality of his death. Riley has never directly addressed the tunnel rumors. understanding that part of Elvis's enduring power lies in the mystery. As she put it, some things are meant to remain unanswered. This approach allows fans to maintain their own relationships with Elvis's legacy while protecting the family's privacy. The Elvis is alive phenomenon has persisted well into the 21st century, with reported sightings continuing to surface on social media and in fan communities. While most of these reports are easily debunked or are obvious cases of mistaken identity, their persistence speaks to the depth of Elvis's cultural impact. The most compelling aspect of these ongoing theories isn't their factual accuracy, but what they reveal about Elvis's place in American culture. He has become a figure so larger than life that many people simply cannot accept that he died at the relatively young age of 42. The idea that he might have found a way to escape and live quietly somewhere feels, to many fans, more believable than the official story. Recent technological advances have also given new life to these theories. Digital analysis of photographs and videos has allowed conspiracy theorists to present their cases with greater sophistication than ever before. However, these same technologies have also made it easier for experts to debunk false claims and provide scientific analysis of supposed evidence. The fraud scheme of 2024 inadvertently fed into these theories, with some believers suggesting that the attempted theft was actually an inside job designed to distract from or cover up evidence of Elvis's survival. While these claims have no factual basis, they demonstrate how any major event involving Graceland can be incorporated into the broader mythology surrounding Elvis's death. The memoir hints at something that has tantalized Elvis fans for decades: the possibility of unreleased recordings hidden somewhere in Graceland's sealed rooms. Lisa Marie's tapes mention finding a reel-to-reel player in Elvis's upstairs study, along with a stack of unlabeled tapes that had never been properly cataloged or examined. These wouldn't be commercial recordings, but personal sessions where Elvis would sing casually, review his voice, or work through rough drafts with close collaborators. Unlike most legacy musicians whose vaults have been opened and reissued over the years, Elvis's personal archive remains surprisingly guarded, with much of it still unexplored. The potential significance of these recordings cannot be overstated. They could provide insight into Elvis's creative process, his personal thoughts about his music, and his artistic evolution during his final years. They might contain early versions of songs that were later recorded professionally, or completely unknown material that was never intended for public release. Riley has confirmed that certain storage areas in Elvis's bedroom and study haven't been fully cataloged yet. That includes documents, books, tapes, and potentially unreleased materials that have been sitting untouched for nearly 5 decades. The process of properly cataloging and preserving these materials is ongoing, but it's complicated by the need to balance historical preservation with family privacy. Whether these recordings survive the decades and whether they still sit in a cabinet somewhere upstairs remains one of Graceland's greatest mysteries. If they do exist, Riley will ultimately decide what, if anything, should be made public. Given her careful approach to managing her grandfather's legacy, any such releases would likely be done with great care and consideration for their historical and artistic value. As Riley settles into her role as guardian of the Presley legacy, she faces unprecedented challenges. The 2024 fraud attempt showed how vulnerable the estate can be to those who would exploit its fame, but it also demonstrated Riley's determination to protect what matters most to her family. The memoir's success has opened new possibilities for sharing the Elvis story in ways that respect both public curiosity and family privacy. Riley has shown that it's possible to reveal intimate details without compromising the sacred nature of the spaces where Elvis lived and died. Looking ahead, Riley is focused on digital preservation initiatives, educational partnerships, and ensuring that future generations understand Elvis not just as an icon, but as a complex human being who struggled with fame, searched for meaning, and left behind a legacy that continues to shape American culture. The upstairs rooms of Graceland may remain physically sealed, but through Lisa Marie's tapes and Riley's stewardship, their emotional secrets are finally being shared with the world. And perhaps that's exactly what Elvis would have wanted, to be remembered not just as the king of rock and roll, but as a father, a seeker, and a man who, despite having everything, was still searching for peace. Some spaces are meant to stay personal, but that doesn't mean they have to stay secret. Thanks to Riley Keough's courage in sharing her family's story, we now understand that the most important part of Graceland was never the spectacle downstairs, but the humanity that lived, loved, and grieved in the rooms above. The secrets of Graceland continue to unfold through Riley Keough's revelations. What do you think about Lisa Marie's hidden recordings and the recent fraud attempt? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories from music's most legendary estates. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest discoveries about the icons who shaped our culture.